So I just wanted to make a bit of a video talking about the heavyweights. What? What? Nauta? You making videos about heavyweights? You gonna talk about the heavyweights? I thought you just liked the little guys. Man, I like the sport of boxing. The sport of boxing. Primarily pro boxing. I mean, I'd actually like to make a few more vids, give them my thoughts about, AIBA, the amateur side of things, the quote unquote amateur side of things, because some of those guys are really just pros and national pros essentially. But a lot of the footage isn't easily available for a lot of those fights, unfortunately. If it was more so, then I'd cover it a bit more. But yeah, the heavyweight division. It's a division where there's a lot of promise, where there's a lot of good potential matchups. The problem is the matchups aren't necessarily being made. There have been a couple of really good ones that, definitely lived up to the billing, or even lived beyond their billing. Dominic Brazil over Izuagbe Ugono, I think is an excellent representation of that. It was a fantastic fight. To me, one of the fights of the year. It definitely deserves to be mentioned at the very least, and as an honorable mention for fight of the year. Two big punching, top level contenders. Brazil, a guy that's a former title challenger, and Ugono, who was a bit of a newbie on the block. And Ugono was giving him the business, but Brazil, he bit down on his mouthpiece and let those hands fly, and he managed to take Ugono out. He wasn't intimidated by a man being able to hurt him. He hurt him right back. But yeah, the heavyweight division, man. Tyson Fury, it looks like he's finally cleared to fight again, which is great. He's a great addition to the division. Him not being active, I think, is one of several things that hurt it. On top of some of these matchups not necessarily getting made, the whole situation with the WBC, and all of a sudden Stavern becoming the mandatory again, and Povetkin and Ortiz, not getting their shots at Wilder. I mean, due to their own fault, but also maybe not. I can't call it. I don't know all of the specific day-to-day ins and outs of that whole situation, and I'm not so much of a conspiracy theorist, but I do, I'm not naive enough to believe that nobody is conspiring. Everybody is conspiring at some point in time, all around the world, even just beyond boxing. So there's just some fishy stuff going on with regard to that, or at least it's starting to look a little bit fishy anyway. But I'm a fan of Wilder. Anybody that's heard my voice online, in whatever outlet that I've happened to be on in the past, even before I had my YouTube channel here, or before I started making videos on YouTube anyway, knows that I'm a Wilder fan. I've been following Deontay since the '08 Olympics when he won the bronze. Did a damn fine job then. He's doing a pretty solid job now. But it's time. It's time for him to get these good fights in. Luis Ortiz. I'm looking forward to that fight. Luis Ortiz deserves his shot. He deserves his shot. And regardless of what you might want to say with regard to the testing positive and then the high blood pressure medication, or if he didn't fill out the form right, or whatever happened, hey, the fight's there now. Ortiz, yeah, he's a little bit older, but I mean, I don't necessarily see any more ring wear on him. The guy isn't exactly taking any kind of real beating or really getting pushed very much in these fights. I mean, he just scored a nasty second round knockout the other day. I want to see the fight, man. I think if Wilder were to win that fight, Ortiz will have become easily the best win of his career thus far. That's just obvious, and the same for Ortiz. Ortiz beats Wilder, that's automatically the best win of his career. All of a sudden he becomes the champion, first Cuban professional heavyweight champion. It'd be a big accomplishment. He'd be able to say that he outdid his old amateur rival, Odlanier Solis, who he was pretty much the kind of the sparring partner for. He was the second class back in the Cuban amateur system. He'll have been able to say that, hey, he overcame the odds and did I guess a bit of an Orlando Salido, I guess maybe you might want to call it. Underdog turned hero, turned super champ, or what have you. You got Anthony Joshua out there. the whole situation of, demanding 50-50 Wilder versus Joshua. I mean, anybody with a brain knows that that's absolutely crazy. Joshua is not just a UK celebrity, he's an international celebrity. He's a worldwide celebrity. There's posters and billboards of Anthony Joshua Under Armour ads in stores in the United States, in Dubai, in Korea, in Japan, in India, worldwide. Deontay Wilder does not have that. He just doesn't. Deontay Wilder, honestly, his stardom in America, I think, hasn't been cultivated well enough. Not just in comparison to Anthony Joshua, but for his own sake. It's just really unfortunate. Wilder's general promotion beyond the boxing media has been kind of slow and not as widespread as it really should be. There's really no excuse as to why Joshua would be probably just as well known in the United States as Wilder is. If I was to just kind of ask random people on the street, in the United States or what have you, like who Deontay Wilder is, who Joshua is, I'd be willing to bet you most of them would know of both of them, as opposed to just one or the other. There's probably a fair few amount of people that might know of Wilder in particular, especially thanks, to the PBC's kind of proliferation of broadcasts, and the constant, showing of even that Corona commercial with Wilder on it, Wilder, Danny Garcia, and Leo Santa Cruz. But it just, saying that it's like a 50-50 split in terms of the fanfare that they're bringing, the ratings that they're bringing, is it's just not there. It really just isn't. And this is boxing. Ultimately, is not just a sport; it's a business as well. Professional boxing is. And so sometimes sometimes you got to give a little something in order to achieve those things. Sometimes you got to pay the cost to be the boss, so to speak. I forgot which fight that Joshua won where that was the song that played afterwards with all the money falling from the sky. I think it might have been Charles Martin. Charles Martin, man. Oh, Charles Martin, man. They should probably get him against Izaragbe Ugono. That'd be a pretty good fight. Andy Ruiz, incidentally, is actually going to be coming back pretty soon. There's a February top rank card that's going to be featuring Andy Ruiz coming back. I know Gilberto Ramirez is going to be defending his super middleweight title. Ray Beltran is going to be fighting for the vacant WBO lightweight title, most likely against Vasyl Lomachenko. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. At first I was thinking, it might be a little bit of a quick turnaround for Lomachenko, but what damage did he really take against Rigondeaux? So, I could see that happening. Joran Akasa is on there too. Unfortunately, that's of course takes Akasa away from the Superfly HBO card, but who knows? Maybe Aaron was trying to upend HBO's flyweight area kind of strategy as well now too. He's definitely got some squabbles with HBO's executives in charge of their sporting programming. But getting back to the heavyweights, Andy Ruiz is gonna be coming back. Personally, I think everybody knows this. I thought that he beat Joseph Parker. I thought he edged the fight. To me, anytime that they really exchange punches, Ruiz looked just like the superior boxer, the superior fighter. Period. His main problem is just the fact that he didn't work enough in the fight. He didn't let his hands go enough, and Parker kind of summarily outworked him. And that work rate of his, I think, wound up paying dividends as far as the judges were concerned, and they saw him win in the fight. As for Joseph Parker, he just got the win against Hughie Fury, and in spite of the fact that it was a bad fight to watch, it wasn't exciting or anything. I rate the win. I do think Hughie Fury is actually a pretty good boxer. And so, Joseph Parker being able to, make him so skittish and hesitant to really put forth any real offense against him, it's a good win for Parker. It's definitely a good win for, that to me, that's pretty much his signature victory right there. I mean, you could probably put Takam up there as well. But, good win. That was a good win. I mentioned Dominic Breazeale earlier. He also got a good win against Eric Molina. Eric Molina, who he in spite of the fact that he got knocked out by Chris Arreola in the first round all those years ago, still stands as a guy that at the very least he provides a certain little level of danger to some of these guys, maybe as like a gatekeeper or something. I wouldn't mind seeing him, staying around in the mix and all that. Maybe him versus Charles Martin. That actually might be a pretty good crossroads fight between those two. Jarrell Big Baby Miller. All right, now this is my guy, Jarrell Big Baby Miller. I'm a big fan of this guy. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I really like fighters that talk a lot of shit. When they're witty with it. I like quick-wittedness. I like that kind of, you snap on somebody. Like you're playing the dozens with somebody. Like you battle rapping somebody. Like that's why I fuck with Jarrell Miller's his hype train or his fan train or whatever you want to call it, man. I'm a big fan of Jarrell Miller. Guy's a former K1 kickboxing champion. So he has a lot of combat experience, even outside of just the professional boxing ring. And, he's a bully. Goes in there, he busts you up, he beats you down, he beats you up. High work rate guy, especially for being a pretty chunky fellow. He definitely has some hand skills, a lot of combinations, grinds you down, wears you down, and busts you up. Miller, he's the type of fighter that I think can get a lot of people really involved. Just like Shannon Briggs was getting a lot of, I think, like casual fans, a lot of people that were kind of familiar with his name all the way going back to the 90s and everything, involved in the sport and really excited because of he has the gift of gab. He had that slick talking, shit talking persona. Like he was really good at self promotion. That's what Jarrell Miller's got. Only Miller's actually in the prime or whatever that may be, whether it's enough to win a world title or not, but. I'm a big supporter of Jarrell Miller. I do think that he gives any of these fighters, regardless of how good they are, I think he gives them a lot of trouble. Miller's going in there to fight. He's coming to fight. He's coming for that ass, and he's gonna do his damnedest. To do the damage, to do the job, whether or not he comes out on top or not. Just a good fighter. Dillian White, not unlike Miller, albeit to me is like a lesser version. He's coming to fight, yeah. Has more liability to me. Isn't as strong, isn't as big, isn't as heavy-handed, I don't think. I think ultimately White is the type of guy that, he'll be kind of the also-ran, unfortunately. A guy that'll ultimately, I think, come up short against pretty much most of the guys that I already named. But I do think that he makes interesting fights with some of the guys that I named. Like I mentioned Ugono earlier, him versus Ugono I think would be an incredible fight. Maybe even toss in Amir Mansour, still plugging away out there. That'd be a pretty solid fight as well. But I say all that to say this. The heavyweight division it's lively. It's lively. At the very least, it's lively in terms of the name value, of the potential matchup value that there is. They just need to make the matchups. A lot of people they might wonder why I praise a lot of the lighter weight fighters in the sport so much, and a lot of it is because of the fact that they're constantly fighting tough fights. They fight tough schedules. It's a big part of the reason why a lot of these lighter weight guys are burnt out by their early 30s or sooner. And a lot of it is because, it's old school. It's old school style. They're constantly fighting the best of the best, tough opponents, gritty opponents, tough fights. They have more grueling schedules, grueling schedules in the vein of the old school all-time greats. In the vein of your Alis and your Robinsons and your Chavezes and going all the way back. Like pretty much like pre, I guess, mid '80s, you might say. And the heavyweights, I think there's just so much opportunity there, man. There really is. Like even in the pound for pound sense, Mike Tyson at once upon a time was the pound for pound number one fighter. He was. The way that he devastated the division, unified the belts, and just laid waste to everybody in his path. You can get the props if the fights are made, and the fights back in those days were made. We got Riddick Bowe versus Evander Holyfield 3 times. We got Michael Moore and George Foreman, and as I already mentioned, Holyfield in there, and all these guys fighting each other, and the division can very well return to those glory days. Like even just going to the glory days, not like forget the 70s, but even just the early to mid 90s. Even the early 2000s, there was a few good, really solid matchups in the heavyweight division. I just hope they get made. I really do. 2017 was a year with a lot of promise that wasn't fulfilled for the heavyweight division. Although the Joshua versus Klitschko fight was an incredible fight, really was. It makes up to a certain degree for some of it, but we need more. We definitely need more. Wilder versus Ortiz, Joshua versus Wilder, Joshua versus Fury, Miller versus Brazil, Miller versus Ruiz, Miller versus the other guys that I already mentioned, Ugano versus Dillian White, it's stuff like that. These are the type of fights I want to see. Joseph Parker versus Miller, man. Joseph Parker versus Ruiz, two, I guess. Maybe not. Maybe not that one because first fight wasn't that great. But let's get it done, man. Let's get it done. The boxing, a lot of people, it used to be that, so goes the heavyweight division, so goes boxing. And I think a lot of the lighter weight classes in the sport of boxing, I don't just mean lighter weight classes like the flyweight area weight classes, I mean like welterweight, middleweight, etc. When the heavyweight division is on point and putting on great fights, the other divisions follow suit and put on great fights because they're battling for that press and they're battling for that attention to avoid it completely getting shuffled away and stolen away by the heavyweights. And when the heavyweight division is putting on great fights, ultimately I think that just that winds up with a lot of the other divisions putting on similarly excellent fights, similarly excellent matchups. So that's all I got to say on this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.